The Gators currently have an opening for an on-field staff member, which leaves Coach Napier with a few options right now. It's been rather quiet as to what move he's going to potentially make. I'll talk about those options and what I'm hearing in just a moment. But first, quick recap. Okay, so Florida has two offensive line coaches, right? Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton. Darnell Stapleton just left the program. He took a job on Dan Quinn, who former Florida defensive coordinator, who's now the head coach of the Washington Commanders. Stapleton took a job on his staff. So what does that mean for UF? It kind of shakes things up a little bit. UF was unique in having two offensive line coaches for the last 2 years. I don't know that we really saw much benefit to it on the recruiting or development side. I will say that when we talked to recruits, there were lots of times that they said they thought it was really awesome that Florida had two offensive line coaches. But a lot of the people that said those things didn't end up picking Florida. So I don't know that it was really a deciding factor for many people. I do know that Fletcher Westphal, who committed to Florida last year, is the highest ranked offensive lineman in last year's class, I believe. He did say it was a key part of his recruitment. But I think overall, it's something that people thought was a good idea and maybe was a little bit of a novelty, but I don't know that it ever was anything that actually pushed anybody over the edge in committing to Florida. And, Florida's offensive line play hasn't been great. I would say 2 years ago was better than last year. And some of that has to do with the pieces to the puzzle that you have. But I don't know that I would say that Florida's offensive line development has really been there the last couple of years. And, even if you look at guys coming in from the transfer portal, I don't know that Florida has done a huge bang up guy outside of bringing in Osiris Torrance, who obviously had Napier connections. He was with him at Louisiana Lafayette. That's how he ended up as a Gator. So I don't know that you even can necessarily credit his recruitment to these two offensive line coaches. So I think it may be one of those things that is great on paper, but Florida hasn't seen the benefits of. Now, Urban Meyer used a two offensive line coach system when he was at UF, and we did see huge benefits from it. So I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things that as time played on, we were going to see the benefits from it. Maybe it's that these two coaches weren't the right fit for it. I don't really know, but I don't think that it's been some huge, massive success for UF. In fact, I think that fans have been wanting a change at O-line. They've been wanting to see what could happen if Florida had, maybe a different position coach there. So what are Billy's options? He's got that open spot on the field right now. So who does he bring in? He could hire an offensive coordinator. Now, prior to Stapleton leaving for the NFL, Billy had said that there likely wouldn't be any more offensive staff changes and that he himself would be calling plays next year. But again, that was before Stapleton left, so that could change. The second option is that he could bring in another offensive line coach. I don't know that I see that happening. Sale and Stapleton had a good relationship with each other. That is why they were able to work together. It would seem difficult to bring in a second offensive line coach that could work seamlessly with Sale this far into the process here. We're getting ready to start spring ball. So, I'm not saying it won't happen, but that seems like a pretty unlikely option. They could choose to use this spot to focus on the defensive side of the ball, right? They could maybe split up DBs like it was 2 years ago at Florida. That was the unit that needed the most help this past season. So in theory, they could bring in another coach on that side. Another option that I think is potentially maybe the most likely scenario is that they could make the new special teams analyst, I guess, that they hired a special teams coach, and it could be an on-the-field role. Now, not every program has a dedicated special teams coach. Honestly, I would say it's probably only about 10% of programs that have a dedicated special teams role. But it is a possibility because they have that opening. So again, not saying that it would happen, but I think that that would be probably the easiest to do, right? You just promote that. It's an area of need for Florida. Special teams really struggled last year. It is 1/3 of the game. So you make your special teams coach an on the field role and potentially eliminate some of the mistakes that happened last year. I'm going to tell you what I think he should do. But first, do me a favor and tell me what you think he should do with this open role right now. I want you to say, if I had to take a guess, I'd say that Napier's going to do XYZ. Tell me what you think he should do with that spot. Just before we go on, I want to give some love to Meldon Law. If you are in Gainesville, Ocala, Fort Lauderdale, or Lake City, and you are in either a car, truck, or motorcycle accident, your consultations with Meldon Law are absolutely free. They've been serving Florida since 1971, and they are proud partners and sponsors of all Florida Gator athletics. Listen, you may not need them today, but if you do later on, make sure that you remember to reach out to Meldon Law. You can follow them on social media. All the links are in the description of this video, and I appreciate them so much, not only for supporting the Gators, but also our channel here. Let's get back to this open on the field role. This could be good, right? This could be a great opportunity for the Gators. It is an opportunity to bring in somebody who could be a huge difference maker on the staff. You could find a real hidden gem. You could find somebody who comes in with a new perspective, and is able to see some stuff that maybe these other guys haven't been able to see the last season or two together. So I think that there is the chance that this helps Florida get better. Now, obviously, Napier wanted Stapleton there because he just re-signed him to a new contract, but it is undeniable that Florida needed to shake things up after last season. Last season just wasn't good enough. Heading into year 3 for Napier, it is an incredibly crucial year against a very, very difficult schedule that, maybe some change is a good thing. This also could be bad. I don't know that Napier is hiring from a position of strength right now. Anybody he hires has to understand that they may be facing an exit if Napier and the Gators don't win enough this upcoming year. So this is a hard position for Coach Napier to be in. He is a great salesman. We see that on the recruiting trail, but it's got to be even harder to convince a guy to uproot his family and move to a city where you can only guarantee that 1 year. Now, all of us in Gator Nation hope that Billy Napier comes out next season and dominates. I hope Florida wins. Well, obviously, I hope they always go undefeated, but I hope Florida wins 8, 9, 10 games. And the pressure on Billy Napier comes off a tiny bit. That seat gets a little less warm. That is what all of us hope happens next season. But the truth of the matter is, at this exact moment, that seat's pretty hot. Right? And he's feeling the heat, the staff's feeling the heat. That's just human nature. That's the nature of major college football. So it is a bigger task to convince somebody to join your staff where you can only say, hey, we know at least we've got next year, as opposed to some of these coaches who are either have been there and won for a very long time, or even somebody that's brand new. Because if it's your first year, you've got 3 years unless the wheels completely fall off. So even that is a much easier sell than the position that Napier is in right now. And, obviously UF hasn't backfilled the strength and conditioning position. Fitzgerald left for the NFL as well. We're getting closer and closer to spring ball. I have heard that some of the assistants that Fitzgerald brought in are who is running the program. I have been told that it doesn't appear that strength and conditioning has missed a beat, that it's still kind of Fitzgerald's model that is being run. The players haven't really noticed a difference. I'd hope that that role is filled, solidified ASAP though. And we want that name announced. We want to know who it is, but it does sound like within the locker room, there is some stability there. And it does sound like there's a great chance that it's just an assistant that will be elevated to that role, but an assistant under Fitzgerald. who was brought in to follow his specific plan. So even though obviously it's concerning to have your strength and conditioning coach leave a month into the tenure, I do think this is one that the Gators feel pretty good about. But, we need that final field role filled before spring starts. Spring is just a couple of weeks away. So I told you I would tell you what my suggestion would be. And I honestly think it's make Joe Houston an on the field coach. We brought him in to work at special teams, but he has so many other credentials as well that I think that there's only positives to him being able to have that headset on, particularly when spring ball rolls around. Now, what could change that? Well, I have heard some rumors that there could be some additional staff changes outside of this opening. We'll see if anything comes of that. I kind of hope that these are just rumors and they're not true, because that just puts Coach Napier in an even tougher spot. But obviously, if that were to happen, that could potentially change what he does with this current open on the field role. But we will see. We're going to be glued to it. Coach Napier has played this incredibly close to the vest, but I am going to do my very best to keep you guys updated on anything I hear. And of course, my thoughts after a hire or hires are made. Let's talk about all this down below in the comments. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, go Gators.